Welcome back, YouTube family. Today we are doing 4 Pinterest inspired DIYs. So let's get to crafting. DIY number 1. We're going to start out with this shadow box that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to remove the back and the lettering. Now, I thought the lettering was on the outside, but it is on the inside, and I went at it with the Dollar Tree razor blades, the Cricut spatula, and the Dollar Tree spatula, and in the end the razor blade and Dollar Tree spatula seemed to work the best. Then I found this free Jingle Bells printable online, printed it out on regular printer paper, and then I cut it down to the size of the cardboard piece in the back, and then with my Elmer's school glue, the purple that dries clear, and just glued that to the back of the board. Then I go in with a couple of these vase fillers from the Dollar Tree and some jingle bells, and I just toss those in there, and I do put the coin slot that they had in this shadow box at the bottom. You won't see it once the bells and those vase filler balls kind of slide to the bottom. But once I get that done, I did put it in upside down there. There's what it looks like. These are all over Pinterest, so I didn't single out any one. When you type in Jingle Bell shadow boxes, a ton come up. So that was my take. DIY number 2. So I've had these bells in my craft stash for some time, and I really didn't know what to do with them. I picked them up at the Dollar Tree. As you can see, some of the glitter was falling off in clumps, but after searching Pinterest, I came up with a great idea to make these into a door hanger. To remove the glitter, I go in with Goo Gone, and it was a bit of trial and error, but it ended up using the Glue Gone and the Dollar Tree spatula that kind of looks like the Cricut spatula, and I was able to saturate the glitter and scrape the glue and glitter right off with the spatula. When I was done, I was hoping that all of the red would come off, and it didn't. So I'm going to go in with the Apple Burl Pewter Gray and just dab that on with a sponge brush. While I wait for the first coat to dry, I go in with the gold bells and this clear ornament, and I know you can pick this clear ornament up at the Dollar Tree. I've just had this one in my stash for a while. And to go with the gold theme, I went in with my Rub and Buff in gold and a paintbrush and just painted the hanger part of the ornament in gold. Once the bells were dry, excuse me, I went in with a bit of a mix. I used some melted chocolate, traditional beige, and flamenco red, all apple burls, and I mixed up this rusty brown color, which I ended up stippling all over. I guess that's what it is when you dab it with the brush, all over the bells to kind of give them an old rusty look. Then the ribbon, I decided to change to this ribbon. I know we had the buffalo check with the snowflakes on it in the beginning, but I felt that this ribbon was more rustic than the buffalo check. I taped the end with the washi tape, and this was a bit of trial and error because I wanted them to stagger with the ornament full of bells to stagger just on top of the lower bell, but in between the two bells. You'll see what I mean if that doesn't make sense. So I played around with the ribbon a little bit, pulling it in and out of the bells. So thank goodness for washi tape because it helped that ribbon to not fray on me. And then I figured out that if I put the ribbon through both bells and then through the top bell and the one side of the ribbon through the ornaments, I would get the staggered look I was looking for. Then I figured out the length, and then I tied a floppy ribbon, and here I'm trying to figure out a little bit of greenery because it is pretty plain. And then I decided the pine pieces with the pine cones on them. I would just, that were originally on the bells, I was just going to remove the ribbon and use the wire that was already on them and tie them around the ornament, and then cut my bow strings to length and hit them with a little hot glue to keep them from fraying. DIY number 3. This next Christmas DIY was inspired by Caren with a C from Pinterest. We start out with a wood ornament sign from the Dollar Tree and remove the metal piece. I apologize for the camera. You're going to get a couple different angles from here on out. I am trying to figure it out still. But I'm going to use the apple barrel paint bottles and the Dollar Tree spatula, and I'm going to create what is known as the throats of the bell. And then for decorative purposes, I trace out one of the stars out of this pack of Dollar Tree laser cut wood stars, and I go around with my X-Acto knife. This did not take me as long as I thought that it would. It went pretty quick, and I was able to cut out the star. Now for the throats of the bell, I made it easy. I used a 1 1/8 inch drill bit to make the holes that I use the apple barrel bottles to trace out, and for the slits down from those holes, I used a 9/16 drill bit. When I got all of those out, I went in with the Dollar Tree sandpaper. This was the 100 grit sheet, and I just smoothed out the areas around the bell and the throats. Then to get the crease, or where the bell would normally be joined together, I used a piece of foam board because I could not find any paint stir sticks, which would be a nice alternative for the bell's seam. So to cut this out, I just used my Cricut razor blade and my Dollar Tree square ruler, and then to adhere it to the Christmas ornament sign, which is now going to be my bell, I used Aleene's Turbo Tacky Glue, and I just held that on, and this stuff, you'll see, I pick it up by the foam board and it does not fall apart. Then I go in with the Apple Barrel's Flamingo Red, and I give the entire bell a really good coat of that, and I get inside the throats of the bell and where the star is going to go, and then I just go through and touch up just to make sure I have good coverage there. I hope that I'm saying the name of the apple barrel paint correctly. It's either flamenco or flamenco red. But moving on, once that's completely dry, I go in with the Apple Barrel's melted chocolate and a fan brush, and it's a hard bristled fan brush, and I take off as much of the excess and I start stippling it around the edges, thinking that that's the kind of distressing that I would like. But then I thought it looks much nicer if I just stipple around the throats and then drag the brush the whole way across, going from the left side of the bell to the right and then the right side of the bell to the left to give it that more rustic look. Then I take the little metal hanger piece and I go over it with a good coating of rub and buff, which it dries pretty quick. After it was dry, I kind of rubbed off some of the rub and buff, and then I went in with the melted chocolate again and I stippled that on top of the rub and buff to kind of give that a more rustic look. Once this dried, I took some hot glue and put it back on top of our Jingle Bell sign. Once that was all glued on, I went in with the Dollar Tree pine picks and I cut them in half, and I just played around with their placement a little bit. just to see where I might like the placement, and then I hot glue those down. And then I picked up it's like a garland, but it's a copper wire, and it has pine cones around, or the copper wires around the pine cones. You'll see that here in a second. What I was going to do was use the wire to bunch 3 pine cones. But what I found out was that the pine cones had the wire wrapped around them, so they easily came off the wire. And I was able to place them down where I wanted the pine cones to be. Here you see how it's on the wire, and I don't think I got good footage. No, I ended up doing it off camera. Like I said, I apologize for the camera placements. I am working on it. I think I figured it out, and then I go to put my videos up, and then I realize I haven't. And here that is. Let me know what you think. DIY number 4. This next Christmas DIY was inspired by Bella Cachè Company on Pinterest, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I picked these wreath forms up at the Dollar Tree. I don't even know how long I've had these in my stash, you guys. I just go by the rule of thumb that if you use it, it's not hoarding. So I'm sure I've had these in my stash for quite some time. As you can see, as I'm fluffing this, these are very scarce as far as the greenery is concerned. So I use these Dollar Tree garland ties, and I'm going to cut them in half and use them to fill the spaces in between the bells. Now these bells I picked up at the Dollar General, and they did have some pine and pine cones and berries on top, but I liked it, so I was just sticking with it. And I hot glued those down in 4 spots. I think if I were to do this again, I would stick with more of the inspiration piece and go with 3 bells, but I still think it turned out really cute. So I like it. And you guys can tell me what you think whenever you see it at the end. Originally, I went with the whole piece of the garland tie there, but they were too long, so I cut them in half, and then I just tied them in a twist until I had the spaces in between the bells filled up to where I felt it looked full. I believed I used about a bag of these, maybe a half bag, to get the wreath as full as you'll see here in a couple seconds. And here's what the wreath looks like once I'm done adding in all of the garland tie pieces. Then I go in with some Dollar Tree ribbon, and I just kind of played around with this a little bit. The original does not have ribbon, but I seem to have a lot of ribbon, so that's what I decided to go with. In the end, I decided that wrapping the ribbon around the wreath ended up giving it the best look for my taste. Anyway, you guys can do whatever you want. You can bunch it, twist it, and tie it in. Really, this DIY is pretty much endless on possibilities. I guess they all really are. You could paint, add picks, do whatever you like, whatever fits your decor, your style, your inspiration, wherever it takes you. Run with it. So once I have the ribbon wrapped and hot glued on, I take more ribbon and I make a bow, and I guess this would be considered a cheater's bow. I take a small piece, I fold it in half, find center, put where the ends come together to the center of the bow, and put a little dab of glue. Then I take 2 longer pieces, I do the same. Then I put them all together and I scrunch them up, and then I take some Dollar Tree wire. I'm sure you've seen me do this bow in my other videos. I'm not 100% sure which videos I've done this bow in, but I think it's the easiest way to get the best looking bow for a wreath. I mean, that's just my opinion. But once I twist it together to hide the wire, I take a scrap piece of ribbon, and you can't see here, but I fold it, and then I wrap it around the bow and hot glue it in the back. And once that's done, I will hot glue the bow to the top of the wreath. I almost forgot, I do take 2 pieces of ribbon and make the tie bottoms or tails, whatever you want to call those. I position them where I want them and glue the bow on top of that. And then I do dovetail those tie ends. And here's mine with a side-by-side of my inspiration piece. All right, if you like what you saw here, give this video a thumbs up. Click on the subscribe button, and when the bell appears, if you click on it, you can choose to be notified every time I upload a video. Let me know what you guys think in the description box below and which DIY was your favorite. Have a happy Thanksgiving!